By the way, I've met Tony Bloom on a few occasions. I've spent a bit of time with him socially. He is an absolute genius. And if he was willing to entertain the idea of appointing Michael Carrick, that's good enough for me.
Well, Steve Holland is a good coach.
That's the only thing that made me feel better when you see a name like Steve Holland who has so much experience.
Like, I'm just not confident we're going to get that type of bounce that when Ollie was there. The squad's different.
Yeah.
The squad that he's inheriting is made up
they're
for
in a worse
3-4-3.
position.
How has he gone from Manchester City's academy manager to director of football at a championship club, as they were when he went in, to suddenly being director of football at the biggest club in the country?
You've caused absolute chaos at this club, and you're just getting away with it. Jim Ratcliffe was open to doing a few interviews, since he's been in charge. I'd love to have one now.
It's about Dallo smashing Semenyo, get that ball out for a throw-in. It's about Ahmad back in the team,
Yeah.
going at O'Reilly.
It's Manchester City. If this is a game to stand up and be counted, this is it.
Hello and welcome back to Inside Devils talkSPORT show that keeps you bang up to date with everything going on at Old Trafford. Last week, I said to you, we will see you with 2 wins under our belt, under our interim head coach, Darren Fletcher. It didn't work out like that. And that's why this show is going to be even more fiery with a crazy week, because that is what it has been at Old Trafford. Absolute chaos. Let's welcome in Angelina Kelly and, of course, Alex Crook. Crookie. Where do we go? We will be talking about Michael Carrick very, very shortly, of course. But a couple of games under Darren Fletcher, and did it just further show us what the issues are, and that there's a lot bigger problems than just the coach?
Absolutely. And you know what? I was at West Ham on Sunday, partly disappointed not to be covering the game at Old Trafford, but actually by the end of the day I was quite relieved to be anywhere.
You got away with one, mate. You got away with one.
Other than United. And as I was driving home and listening to the end of the commentary on talkSPORT, listening to the post-match reaction with the pundits, listening to the fans phoning up to moan, I felt really low, guys.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've been more depressed about the future of this club for a long, long time now, because we all felt like that defeat in Bilbao had to be the nadir, really, had to be the sliding doors moment. Ruben Amorim on the pitch promised better days were ahead. Well, there's not been too many better days ahead, have there? And obviously Ruben is gone. We're in a farcical situation, in my opinion, when you've had a caretaker manager for 2 games. Now you've got another interim coming in. Nothing against Michael Carrick. I think out of the 2, him and Solskjaer, this is the better appointment. But should a club of the size and stature of Manchester United really be messing around with caretakers with still half a season to go? We're out of both cups. The earliest we've been out of both domestic competitions since before I was born, literally 81, 82.
Only
100 years ago.
1982. Fewest number of fixtures in a season for 100 years. There is nothing to be positive about. A transfer window where we're probably not going to sign a single player, and Inos can hide behind the fact we've got a caretaker manager, and therefore they've got to wait till the permanent manager comes in to really rebuild the squad. Honestly, I can't latch on to any kind of positivity at this moment in time. Sorry for starting on such a sour note, but it's how I feel.
Can't apologise, Crookie. I feel exactly the same.
Same.
I was saying last week, I think, like, this is the first time where I've just felt empty. Like, literally, in my seat at the Brighton game, I was sitting there, saw the first goal go in, and we did nothing. Second goal goes in, top corner from Danny Welbeck. And normally around you there's anger and all of this atmosphere just turns really
Everyone's just like neutral.
Everyone's literally just neutral. And of course then it's Fletcher in the dugout, so no one's going to aim anything towards him.
Can I ask you, because you were at the game, because there was something that there was booing at the end. I thought it was for the referee. Was it at Fletcher or?
It definitely wasn't at Fletcher.
I didn't think it was, because a lot of media were saying like, oh, there were boos towards Fletcher, but I
Match-going fans wouldn't do that.
That's what I was thinking. I assumed it was probably more towards the referee because of the Lacey sending off.
The Lacey sending off, no extra time, put a bit more time.
Yeah, there was an issue with extra time.
And then just generic, boo the team, you lot crap, we're out of the first round again kind of vibe.
I just wanted to clarify that, because I didn't think it would be at Fletcher. But
I mean, don't get me wrong, I did walk straight off without, half the players went on a half little clap. They always do it.
Yeah.
Couldn't bother to see all of that.
No.
But the boos weren't, it definitely wasn't at Fletcher.
Thank you. Yeah.
Is there anything that you saw in that little, Sesko scored a few goals.
Yeah.
We needed that. Kobbie Mainoo's back in the team. Listen, wasn't great against Brighton. I'm not saying he's tore it up or anything like that, but he's getting minutes again. We know how Michael Carrick feels about Kobbie Mainoo as well.
Yeah.
Anything else?
I
Nothing?
mean,
No.
it depends which way you look at it, because we could thank Darren Fletcher because United fans have only got 8 more home games that we've got to sit through. So I guess thanks for that, And what Crook referenced, that this is the shortest season in 111 years. The only reason was because that season was cut short because of World War One. So just to kind of add a bit of context to it. Yeah, even then it was forced. So I think for me, all this Fletcher situation did was prove that they need a coach. This whole people understanding the Manchester United DNA, and this is something that will galvanise everybody, and we'll have that new manager bounce, and Fletcher will have something, almost like a Ruud van Nistelrooy kind of interim position. It didn't work. And, Ineos maybe thought that would buy them a bit of time of putting someone like Fletcher in. It didn't work, and it just proves that we need a coach who knows what they're doing. And it's no disrespect to Darren Fletcher, but like we said, he has next to no experience of actually leading a team that are adults. Yeah. And I know that he's, he spoke a little bit and did a few interviews, and he was saying, I'm really big on player responsibility and I want them to kind of go out onto the pitch and make their own decisions. That's the opposite of a micromanager like Ruben Amorim. So no wonder the players were all over the show, because you've gone from probably thinking, oh, I need to check that this is okay with Ruben or if he's happy. And Darren Fletcher's like, just go and do what you want, have a good time. So no wonder, but it didn't seem like there was any real plan. I'm not surprised that he probably wants to go back to coaching the under-18s. When I heard the rumours that he could be in Carrick's assistant coach, I was like, oh my God, no. But it's hard for him, and I don't hold anything against him, and I hope that he does well. He's got the FA Youth Cup with the under-18s, etc. Yep, Kobbie Mainoo was back. I expect to see him back more with Michael Carrick, because I know he was on Rio Ferdinand's podcast not that long ago and spoke very, very highly of him. Shea Lacey, it was unfortunate with the sending off and everything. I'm sure it's something that he'll learn from, but he looked really excited.
He was the one who gave everybody a lift.
Yeah.
People were clapping. He had a cross that went, a decent cross with his right foot, shot that went just over the bar. Just getting on the ball, and there was a real sense of anticipation and excitement when he got on the ball. Listen, the bar's low, and I'm not saying we're fixed, but as a young player...
It was a positive, yeah. And like you say, for Benjamin Šeško personally, to get some goals, hopefully that will give him a bit of a confidence boost. I think that people have been quite unfair with the Šeško situation, because as we've said before, you look across the board with strikers, apart from maybe a Hugo Ekitike, no one's really firing on all cylinders. And Victor Gyökeres is getting away with all sorts, and I don't think he's getting anywhere near as much criticism as he deserves. And you think about how much stick Šeško gets. So
Arsenal are top.
Yeah, exactly. So I just hope that it does build his confidence. So, like you say, those are the only positive things. And only 8 games to have to sit through at Old Trafford.
Ange's done her best there. She's found a couple. Bless her. She's found a couple. So the Fletcher, the very, very short interim of Fletcher's era is over. I don't think we expected too much, but he didn't win a game, and it was really poor against Brighton. Looking forward now, we are looking at Michael Carrick. He is the new interim coach. What do we know about who's going to be joining them, Crookie?
Yeah, I think this is the most fascinating element of it, really. We were the first, I think, to report that Jonathan Woodgate, his trusted assistant at Middlesbrough, someone he's become very close to, actually, during the course of his coaching career, would come in. I wasn't sure how that would go down with United fans with a Leeds connection, but I haven't seen too many dissenting voices. Obviously, Johnny Evans is staying on. They did offer Fletcher a role, as I understand it, but he decided he'd be better served going back to the under-18s and maybe... Yeah. Maybe in terms of his longevity at the club, that would be a better move. But a really interesting one for me is Steve Holland. Obviously, Gareth Southgate's former assistant at England, someone who's worked with some of the top coaches in the game, actually, the likes of Jose Mourinho and Carlo Ancelotti. Yeah. And I think it's a really intelligent appointment, because it was one of the things Eddie Howe did when he came in at Newcastle, actually. We know that Eddie has a certain entourage. He likes to take around with him, with Jason Tyndall and Stephen Purchase and others that have always been with him from his time at Bournemouth. But he kept on Graham Jones at Newcastle, even though they didn't have any pre-existing working relationship. And I think when I was speaking to people close to Eddie at the time, they were saying, well, it's not a bad thing to have a voice from outside your inner circle who's going to give you maybe more of a truer opinion on things. And I think certainly that's the case with Steve Holland. Now, if you're a conspiracy theorist, you might suggest that one of the reasons Steve Holland has gone in there is because he's sounding the place out for Gareth Southgate ahead of a potential summer appointment.
That
You're
will
right.
float. That will float round. That will float round, and I think because we haven't really got a massive confidence in Ineos to make good decisions, you can look at it from that sort of negligence and be like, I could see what they're doing here. But it does kind of lead to some sort of lazy analysis of Steve Holland, because like Crookie said there, like, he's a very good coach.
Oh,
like,
very
he's been part of
experienced.
title-winning teams, very experienced, worked with the best managers, and you know, to a lot of reporting, he's taken a lot of those England sessions where England were doing really well under Gareth Southgate. Yes, we all know we get to the final hurdle and couldn't quite get over it. But there's a reason why England improved. It wasn't just because Gareth Southgate got everybody on you know, but the man management side. The sessions must have been good as well. Yeah. So Steve Holland is a good coach. Whether that transpires to work out in this 16 games or so, we're going to wait and see. But I don't think we should be discrediting his CV as an actual coach, and he's in the position that he should be, which is, you know, a first team coach, etc., etc.
Yeah, I think for me, when I started hearing about the Michael Carrick situation, when I saw that list of people that would be assisting him, that's the only thing that made me feel better. When you see a name like Steve Holland, who has so much experience, Jonathan Woodgate, you know, he also has managerial experience. I know he didn't do the best job, but again, still has that experience, has that relationship with Carrick. Johnny Evans, I know that he recently quit his job as the club's head of loans and pathways. I don't know if he's just got a contract and got to give him something to do, but the one thing I will say is he does know these players. He's been playing with them very recently, so I'm sure that he will be able to offer some good insight. I was actually reading again, though, so only Paul Scholes and Anderson are left to take the interim positions, and then all 5 midfielders in the 2011 Champions League final squad will have had controls of Man United. I reckon Anderson's more likely than Paul Scholes, because he ain't touching it. So Anderson's retired now, so who knows?
Speak English?
I don't know. We'd figure it out. And you know, Wayne Rooney's thrown his hat into the ring and said, "I'm not begging for a job," but because obviously Wayne Rooney, Michael Carrick, Johnny Evans were all on holiday together in Barbados recently. Obviously, get along. Nice of him to say that he'd help out, but I think not going with Ollie is the right decision for me. I think there were no guarantees that he would have restored a sense of positivity. I think Michael Carrick's got more experience in English football of recent times, obviously. And you look at the Middlesbrough situation. I mean, that first season, he did well getting them to the playoffs. Then it seemed like season by season, he did slip away. But you also have to think at Middlesbrough, he did a very good job developing players as well. You look at someone like Morgan Rogers that he worked with. So that fills me with confidence. And I know that he's spoken so highly of someone like Kobbie Mainoo. That fills me, you know, with a bit of excitement, thinking he's going to go in there and try to get the best out of, you know, some of these younger players. Maybe someone like Shea Lacey will stay within the mix. Maybe he can help with him. But it's a weird one, because in some ways he's got nothing to lose. He can just go into this and just do the best that he can. But, you know, it can't be a write-off the rest of this season. We still have to try and get European football. I know a lot of people are looking for this top 4 because we're only a couple of points off Liverpool, etc. But I'm not sure that I'm that bothered about Champions League football. I get that there's nothing else to play for and that's why people want it, but I just think a European place of some sort is a non-negotiable now.
Crookie, what are you looking at in terms of expectation? Because I know I have seen you sort of say what you feel that Ineos are doing is, you know, maybe, you know, chucking another season down the pan and just sort of staying there to get some form of Europe, maybe beyond Champions League. But with the situation that Michael Carrick's in, what's happened with the squad, do you feel that we're in a better position without Ruben Amorim now with these set of situations, with somebody like Michael Carrick who's going to play a different formation, etc., to get Champions League football? Or do you think it's harder for Michael Carrick now and the expectations come down from yourself?
Well, I always felt like we were in a bit of a false position anyway. Even when we had all those game weeks when we were knocking on the door of the top 4, had we beaten Everton with 10 men? Have we beaten West Ham? Have we beaten Wolves? Have we won that game against Burnley? Suddenly we find ourselves in a Champions League place. But I never felt like the performances were really befitting of such a lofty position in the league, even when we have won games this season. It's not been convincing, is it? You can pick holes in a lot of the performances. I thought it was really interesting to hear Darren Fletcher come out after Brighton and encourage the players, don't waste this season, and to say, look, you know, this is a team that is capable of earning a Champions League place. He's really been the first person who's come out and made that an objective. We know privately Ruben Amorim was told that he had to qualify for Europe this season or his job would be on the line. So I think that's still the aspiration to get in the top 7, which would be enough for a European place. But I think we're going to see a more exciting brand of football. We're going to enjoy watching Michael Carrick's team. You only have to look at the stats from his time at Borough. I've got them in front of me. During his tenure there, they were top of the charts in the Championship for goals, total shots on target, XG, if you believe in that, big chances created, touches in the opposition box and successful passes. So that's going to be the DNA.
Do you think that can correlate to the Prem? Do you think that can correlate to this level, going up against, you know, the type of teams that are in the Premier League? Listen, the Championship, very difficult league. Of course, did that with Middlesbrough, but we saw Ruben Amorim chart topping, you know, with Victor Gyökeres chart topping, but the Premier League is a different animal.
Yeah, but you look at his first spell in charge, and I appreciate it's a different makeup of the squad now. You know, that game against Arsenal, his last game in charge was pretty exciting stuff. We got a last-minute goal from Ronaldo, didn't we, when he was there to get us into the knockout stages of the Champions League. So, yeah, I've got faith in Michael Carrick, and I want to point out none of my complaints on air, when I've been quite negative about Inos and the idea of a caretaking manager, have been directed at Carrick. I do think Carrick is a better bet than Ollie, and I'll go back to the point I made when I was on with Sam Matterface and Gabriel Bonlahor 10 till 1 last Friday. No other Premier League club would entertain the idea of appointing Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. So why on earth would we have thought it was a good idea? Whereas Carrick, genuinely, I think if he does well in this caretaker spell, I think there will be clubs who are looking in. West Ham, for one of his former teams.
Weren't
I think
Wolves after him at one point?
I think Brighton were. You know, I think he was a lot closer to getting that Brighton job before Fabian Herzler was appointed than a lot of people realised. So that to me is the level. And by the way, I've met Tony Bloom on a few occasions. I spent a bit of time with him socially. He is an absolute genius. And if he was willing to entertain the idea of appointing Michael Carrick, that's good enough for me. So as much as I said at the top of this programme, I'm quite pessimistic and negative about Manchester United at the moment. I think Michael Carrick will at least provide some entertaining football. And who knows? You know, maybe a European place and even a Champions League place is not completely off the table. But it's going to be difficult with this squad. You know, how do you polish a turd? Ugarte was dreadful, wasn't he, on Sunday? Dorgu, who they've turned into a winger because Amorim got rid of all the other wide players, is not good enough. Šeško, actually, last couple of performances under Darren Fletcher, maybe reasons to be encouraged by what he's doing.
Yeah, Diogo Dalot in at right back as well. He's doing all right at the minute.
He's useless to be fair.
You've reeled him in with that one. Yeah. Actually, quickly, before we move on, what's your understanding as well of Michael Carrick getting this job long term? Is that a no-go? Is it an understanding that he can't get that job? Or if we supersede expectations and finish second?
Yeah, what if he got us, second or third or something? What are we saying?
Well, listen, he's clearly a winner and he's an ambitious character. So he's not going to come out publicly and say he doesn't want the job beyond the end of the season. But I think the understanding is that he is just keeping the seat warm for a bigger name. I think that was part of the issue with Ollie, actually, when he came out last week and made it known to us in the media, or his camp did anyway, that if he did well, he wanted the job full time. I think that set alarm bells ringing in the corridors of power because, make no mistake about it, if we were recording this show a week ago, Ollie would have been the favourite and Michael Carrick maybe, you know, second in the sort of rear view mirror. But there was a definite change after his camp maybe got a little bit too leaky in the middle of last week.
Yeah, I think it's really important to, at a time when we're so directionless and soulless, I think it's really important to try and have some perspective over that type of emotion. But finishing uncharacteristically or surprisingly high, there still needs to be a plan of not, you know, following on from what we've done previously, which is, you know, look at what happened with Ollie. You know, and I don't want to use this as a stick to beat Michael Carrick with and sort of discredit his coaching and just say he's going to go the same way as Ollie when no one's going to want him. I don't believe that. But we have to get somebody experienced. We have to get somebody ready for this role. And I don't think that 16 games, for good or for bad, it should be Michael Carrick. But
I agree.
And I'm not confident, and maybe this is the pessimistic Flex talking, the empty Flex talking. Like, I'm just not confident we're going to get that type of bounce that when Ollie was there. The squad's different.
Yeah.
The squad he's inheriting is made up
they're
for
in a worse
3-4-3.
position.
Exactly.
He was taking over a side that, yes, there was all the drama with Mourinho, but he'd got them to second. He'd won them a trophy. Like
exactly.
Something
Something more was there.
Yeah, like mentality-wise, they were in a completely different place. And I know that a lot of people speak about when Ollie was in charge and about how Kieran McKenna and Michael Carrick were arguably the brains behind the operation, which is another reason why I think he's the right pick. And I think Carrick wasn't afraid to be a little bit ruthless when he was last in charge with United. Like, I know that he was very close with Juan Mata, for example. Didn't really give him a look in. I think he came on as a sub a little bit. I think he dropped Bruno Fernandes as well. Yeah, which I don't.
And Ronaldo, I think.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to do that, obviously, because it was due to Bruno's poor form. But, when players come back from AFCON, I think if he has to make a couple of brutal decisions, I don't think he'd be afraid to. The main concern for me moving forward now is obviously the news that Real Madrid have got rid of Xabi Alonso, which just means that when United are going in for, hopefully, because we don't know what they're going to do, but you would like to think they're going in for high-profile big managers to take over. You've now also got Real Madrid that you can argue are in a much better position in some ways. Maybe in other ways they're not. You could argue whichever. You've now got them also that are potentially speaking to similar people. So they've really got to pull the finger out here. And unfortunately, with Jason Wilcox's behaviour, I have absolutely no confidence in that. So that was another thing hearing that news yesterday that kind of worried me.
Crookie, you've been really vocal about Inos and people like Jason Wilcox, etc. Where are you standing now and seeing how it could look with Michael Carrick in this time and how their search for a manager will look now and what Inos could be potentially trying to achieve with the next appointment?
Well, do you know what I think we're seeing, not just at Manchester United, but in football? We're seeing football people, managers in particular, pushing and rallying against the men in suits who are making the decisions. I don't think it's a coincidence. If you look at the Premier League table, the top three teams are the three teams who've got old school managers in charge. Mikel Arteta is very much master of the Arsenal kingdom. Unai Emery has an awful lot of control at Aston Villa, particularly since Monchi left as sporting director, and Pep Guardiola, just by virtue of what he's done in the game, he very much makes all the big decisions at Manchester City. Enzo Maresca was not happy with being told which players he should pick, when he should take players off, what rotation he should do. And Ruben Amorim, clearly, in that last press conference, that bombshell press conference at Leeds, he was running against interference from the likes of Jason Wilcox and Omar Barada. And I can't help but keep questioning what credentials those guys have got.
Yeah.
Omar Barada was not one of the power brokers at Manchester City when he left the club and ultimately was poached by United. Jason Wilcox, not that long ago, was in charge of academy football at City. He went to Southampton. They spent an awful lot of money on young Manchester City players. Most of it has been wasted. He oversaw their recruitment for their return to the Premier League when they threatened to eclipse Derby as officially the worst team the division has ever seen. So I do wonder, how has he gone from Manchester City's academy manager to director of football at a championship club, as they were when he went in, to suddenly being director of football at the biggest club in the country. And I do think that sooner or later, questions will be asked of Jason Wilcox and Omar Barada, particularly when they look for a big name manager in the summer, because you have to go back to when Erik ten Hag was in charge and it was an open secret that they were trying to replace him. They interviewed the likes of Roberto De Zerbi and Thomas Tuchel, both of whom we understand are on their list again, and they both didn't want the job. They didn't think that the structure above them was conducive to getting Manchester United back where, in Sir Jim Ratcliffe's words, they should be. What's changed? And I do wonder, when those conversations come around again, will they start to turn the spotlight on Jason Wilcox and Omar Barada? Because Ruben Amorim wasn't fired because of the dreadful performances or results. He was fired because he dared to openly question those above him. Dan Ashworth was forced out of the football club because he pushed back against the idea to hire Ruben Amorim in the first place. So I do wonder how much longer Jason Wilcox in particular can escape scrutiny.
Yeah, is that fair?
Yeah, 100%. I'm with Crookie. I know I've been vocal on Jason Wilcox already, and If he sat there saying, I view myself as, a bit of a manager, it's like, all right, then you come out then and, do a few interviews and speak to people and explain your situation. Manchester United fans, I know that there's planned protests going on from the 1958, but it's like fans deserve a bit of an explanation here. Like, you single-handedly, as far as we're looking, Omar Barada as well, you've caused absolute chaos at this club. And you're just getting away with it. And I do think that fans deserve a little bit of an explanation. And you think about the names that are being linked, names that we're discussing, that we're hopeful of. Thomas Tuchel, Julian Nagelsmann, Carlo Ancelotti. Let's just take those three, for example. Yes, they are all at World Cups. But they are the kind of names that excite fans. You speak to fans, those are, that's the type of manager that we want. Number one, are they going to actually deal with somebody like Jason Wilcox? I think that they would struggle with the setup of our hierarchy. And also, like I mentioned, Real Madrid looking for a manager. I understand that you've got someone like Florentino Perez, etc. But Real Madrid have got an amazing team. They are successful, even when you think they're down and out. They wake up one day and think, we're going to win the Champions League this season, and it just happens almost. All three of those names, especially Ancelotti, obviously, I can see them looking at Manchester United, looking at Real Madrid, two big clubs. Manchester United's hierarchy, nah. I can see all of them thinking, it could be a good shout. So you think the big dogs
will turn us down?
Yeah, especially now that you've got Real Madrid potentially in the mix as well. But I think definitely the system and the setup of our hierarchy, because who wants to, if this is all true, what we're all speaking about, that Ruben Amorim has questioned it, Dan Ashworth's questioned it, and this is what happens to you. I've interviewed Thomas Tuchel. He doesn't strike me as the type of guy that's just going to roll over and take whatever. You'd be looking at Jason Wilcox thinking, hang on, what have you won compared to me? Especially if he has success with England, he'd be like, hang on a minute, you're going to tell me what I'm doing and you think that you're the manager and I'm just kind of the head coach and you're, the puppeteer almost. Absolutely not. So it does worry me, and you wonder how much time he's got. And I'd love to know, Jim Ratcliffe was open to doing a few interviews, since he's been in charge. I'd love to have one now.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think with Sir Jim Ratcliffe, I think we've seen this sort of this vibe given off from him that he's very stern, very in control. You can't double cross him or just, get rid of you. Very strict, almost like strict headmaster, do what needs to be done, no emotion. Was calling out players' contracts and sort of saying, name-checking Rasmus Højlund and Casemiro, saying we're still paying for that.
But was Amorim sacking almost on emotion?
Exactly. This is what I'm saying. So he gives across this sort of, I'm going to rule with the iron fist. I'm really in control of what's going here.
But if you upset Jason, then I'm sorry, you're going to have to
go. Then it's not that. And exactly. I want to give this manager 3 years until, like you say, you have an argument with Jace. And no, we're not going to do that. Dan Ashworth, he was the best in class until he argued with Omar and Jace, and it's like, no, you're gone. So what happens when, like what Crookie was saying, what happens when Jason Wilcox is building up a bit of a repertoire now of
being a
consistently bad decisions? Being the common denominator in these fallouts, being the common denominator, or having your fingerprints all over bad decisions, which they're all culpable for because they've all got massive authority at the football club. So Jim has final say on these things, / the Glazers have the final sign off, but the big dogs who have almost the power as well is Jason Wilcox and O'Brien. If those two can sit there, I say conspire, probably sounds a bit dramatic, but if they discuss together and they're like, nah, I'm not having this, Ruben's saying this, should we go to Sir Jim and basically we'll get him sacked, we'll say he's not the guy, and Jim will just believe us.
Like two little bullies.
Exactly. So at what point, I'm challenging Sir Jim, at what point is he going to look at Jason Wilcox and do what the likes of maybe Arsenal have done, where they go, right, we've got this far with Edu, which actually was a bit of progress, to be fair to them. It wasn't this, but we've come this far with this guy. We've fallen out, or it doesn't look right. We're going to go get best in class. We're going to look around Europe, and they come back with Berta, from Atletico Madrid, best in class, like
proven record.
When is he going to pivot towards something like that, rather than just letting Jason Wilcox continue to learn on the job? And that's what scares me, because the answer to my rhetorical question is like, I don't think he is.
Yeah.
He's going to just be happy with that conglomerate. Maybe Barada might be the one who might get, the
sacrificial
lamb, but I can't see it. And the fans are starting to voice their frustration towards Inos now.
And understandably, because we've said it numerous times on this programme, The only thing I think they've got right since they came in is the improvements at the training ground.
Yeah.
They obviously made a mess of the Ten Hag situation, gave him a new contract, having undermined his authority in the dressing room by openly sounding out potential replacements. You've mentioned the Dan Ashworth fiasco, waiting months and wasting millions of pounds on that appointment to get rid of him in the space of 5 minutes. And now Ruben Amorim probably should have been fired after the Europa League final in Bilbao, because there was no real signs of progress in the second half of last season. He stays on, gets us knocked out the League Cup by Grimsby, which is an achievement in itself. We're miles adrift of Arsenal in the league. I'm not saying we should be challenging for the title, but that is where Sir Jim Ratcliffe wants us to get back to. There've been poor performance after poor performance this season. The recruitment's been okay in terms of the summer, although despite his improvement, I think the jury is still out on Benjamin Šeško, but they signed Ugarte, they signed Xerxes, they signed Dorgu, none of whom really look capable of being Manchester United players if you're judging the club by previous standards. So there's an awful lot they have to answer for. And Angelina's right. It'd be great to get an audience with Sir Jim Ratcliffe, but he handpicks who he speaks to, and therefore he gets a pretty soft grilling, for want of a better word, in interviews. Same with Jason Wilcox. The only interview we've seen from him was after we won 3 games in a row, including that win at Anfield, and he only did it with in-house media. Sooner or later, these people need to be properly scrutinised, and I think the supporters are doing that. And we're seeing similar at Chelsea, where there have been protests against their owners, and I'm all for it. You know, I don't think these people can just sit in their ivory towers and keep pinning the blame on the manager, because actually this wasn't a Ruben Amorim problem. It wasn't an Erik Ten Hag problem. The issues go much deeper than that. And even if Michael Carrick gets enough uplift between now and the end of the season, the problems won't go away. And I think not only do we need an experienced manager, I think we need a proper, experienced executive team making the cutthroat decisions.
That's the thing, Ange. Do you think there's a possibility that in the summer, Sir Jim or the decision makers could finally realise that last bit that Crookie was saying, what I was saying before that, of like, okay, we are going to go for a Nagelsmann, a Tuchel and Enrique. They're the dream. But in order to do that, we also need to show them we're serious by bringing in this sporting director from Spain or this guy from Italy or that type of vibe. A reshuffle at board level, or do you think they're just the Jolly Boys Club, they're going to stay tight-knit?
It's so hard, because that is what you want on paper. I must say, the Glazers must be sat, because obviously they're always going to get stick, but they must be sat there clinking glasses of champagne, like, at least it's not all on us now.
We've played a blinder there.
Yeah, and I think the 1958, they've spoken about the protest, and there's this one thing that they say that I think it just nails it, and they just said, after lurching from one disaster to another, Ratcliffe comes across as an incompetent clown turning the club into a circus. Instead of best in class, we're a laughing stock. And I think that's what it is now at this point. Like, you know, hated, adored, never ignored, whatever with Manchester United. And I was reading an article in the Times where a fan had said, you know, if we were amazing, let's say we were challenging for the Premier League title, people would still be moaning at us about the stadium or the colour of our shirt, our away kit or whatever. Someone's always got something to say. But at this point, it's like embarrassing. Like, it really, really is embarrassing. And we do need a change at the top. This series of unfortunate events under Sir Jim Ratcliffe, it hasn't been good enough. And you also just look at he came in and we thought, you know what, this is a change from the Glazers. Let's just try and put our faith in this situation and see what happens. And you think about all these people that were made redundant. Sir Jim Ratcliffe, essentially, in my personal opinion, not being completely transparent when he claimed that, the lights are going to be turned off, we're going to run out of money by November or whatever. I would like to see the proof of nonsense, that. And you think about all these poor people that were made redundant and the amount of money that they've wasted on the Ten Hag and Ruben Amorim situation doesn't even come close to the money they claim they will have saved. Even this stadium situation, which has completely fell flat, the way that was being constructed, not to help local people, not to help local businesses, to literally, I mean, it looked like a circus tent, but to try and make Manchester United something that it isn't, which is we're one of the biggest teams in the world, one of the biggest clubs in the world, but, you know, we're also from Manchester, from a working class background, and you want to, build all these houses that I highly doubt were going to be affordable housing for people, that people probably would have just come in and rented out for ridiculous prices. Local businesses weren't being considered to be brought into this fanfare. It was going to be all singing or dancing with probably bigger chains. So you just look at it from every single angle and they've got it wrong. And there does need to be a change. There should be a change in the summer. But I don't know if Jim Ratcliffe, he's already visibly messed up on a few things. I don't know if his ego and his pride would allow him to come out and say, yeah, I know I said Dan Ashworth was best in class and then he's rubbish. But yeah, and I know that I've kind of had Jason Wilcox, but now I also think that he's rubbish. It makes him look foolish, and I don't think he could maybe... And I hope I'm wrong, but I question if he could realistically put his pride to one side and do what is right for the club.
I see what you're saying there. Crookie, bringing it back to Michael Carrick, actually, what type of instructions / conversations do you think Ineos have had with Michael Carrick in terms of what they expect from him, the expectations from him, how they want him to play? Is it just as easy as he can calm things down, there will be no heat because the fans are definitely not going to oust him out, it will just bring a moment of solitude about the place, the players will respect him, he knows what Man United is about, and just let Michael Carrick get on with it? Or do you think this is an even bigger opportunity for somebody like Wilcox and the rest of them to just be in Michael Carrick's ear? How much autonomy, I guess, what I'm asking is, how much autonomy do you think that Michael Carrick will actually have in these 16 or so games?
Well, I would imagine that he's been asked what formation he wants to play. And
my Carrick said 3-4-3.
The answer would have been
5-4-1,
4-2-3-1, as was his go-to before. But as already mentioned, if you look at that team, certainly from his last game against Arsenal, the emphasis was on Jadon Sancho and Marcus Rashford to hit the flanks. They don't really have the players to do that now. So I think it will be a subtle difference just in terms of how those three in behind the striker operate compared to when he was there last. But I do think they would have asked him or set the challenge of a European place, because as I say, that was the aim at the start of the season. And obviously, when you look at the league table, it feels attainable, because you look at where we are in the league, obviously have dropped down to 7th, I think, on the back of that disappointing result against Burnley. The top 4 look pretty set in stone for me now. Liverpool unbeaten in 11. We know that Villa, City and Arsenal are going to be there for the foreseeable. Newcastle and Brentford, the two teams directly above United. Newcastle on goal difference, Brentford by a point. I think it's more than possible to go past them.
Chelsea might have an upturn as well. You never know. Liam Reseda might just, because they've got probably a better squad, but some few better players in there. They've shown that they can do bits. You never know. They might just go on a run as well, and they could get further away from us.
As long as they don't all get sent off still.
Well, that as well.
As long as they sort the discipline out.
But what I'm saying is, I think actually, if the top 4 are set in stone, positions 5 and 6 are there for the taking.
They're the ones.
Probably will be fought out between United and Chelsea. And I mean that with no disrespect to Newcastle and Eddie Howe, but I just don't think they've got a deep enough squad when the Champions League comes around again in a couple of weeks' time. You would expect at some point the Brentford bubble will burst, as well as Keith Andrews has been doing. And I don't really see any of those teams coming from behind. Brighton were very good on Sunday, but they're inconsistent. They might be a potential threat. So 5th place is there, isn't it? And 5th place will be because of how the English teams are performing in Europe, will be a Champions League place. So I think it's a massive opportunity for Michael Carrick. And if he walks away with a top 5 finish, then his reputation, his CV are only going to be enhanced. But I think the challenge will be to try and play some entertaining football along the way, because it's been pretty turgid, isn't it? Particularly at home, actually. Some of those home performances, I keep harping back to Everton with 10 men, West Ham, Wolves. I mean, that was like watching paint dry, and that just isn't the Manchester United DNA. And Michael Carrick, more than anyone, will be aware of that.
Yeah, I agree. It's just been so bad, and I didn't realise that we've won like 5 out of the last 15 or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, you don't realise there's not been a lot of wins. Like the last game we won was it Newcastle United? Was it Boxing Day?
I think
It's Boxing Day. That 1-0 against Newcastle United is the last game we won.
Yeah, I think so.
And that wasn't great.
And it wasn't great. Look at the second half.
I think we were lucky that Newcastle weren't at the best that day, because that second half especially.
That is the last game, right? We've drawn against Leeds.
Because then we played Wolves, then we played Leeds, then we played Burnley, then we played Brighton, And those are games, really, you think of Wolves, Leeds and Burnley, that we were going into that saying like they should be nailed on 3 points for each game.
And before that, it was Wolves away where we actually did win 4-1. So, the wins are actually, when you break it down and you just think how little we're actually winning, it shows you how poor the league actually is, the fact that we're even in that position to get in. Because every time we've had a chance to break into that top 4 and stake a claim and say we're actually serious about getting it, we've fallen at every hurdle. But as have Liverpool, as have Chelsea. Hence why it's so inconsistent there. Let's move on to talk about City then, because
do we have to?
Yeah, we do. And you know why we have to? Because this is the first game of the Carrick interim era.
Go
this
on.
is
Hype yourself up for it.
I did this. The reason why I predicted 2 wins for Darren Fletcher was because of this.
You bought into the Inos hype. Inos had you.
Oh no, Fletcher hype.
Yeah, but
Ex-player
Ineos appointing a club ambassador, to be honest.
I'm a
you were in the palm of their hands. You were like putty because you just... And there's nothing wrong with you buying into it because you're emotional. You're a United fan. You love your club.
Yes.
You love these players like Darren Fletcher, like Michael Carrick. So, of course, you're going to get behind it.
So should I not do this for the City thing?
No, I think you're allowed to. I think you are allowed to because I feel like me and Crookie are going to be more miserable, so I think you'll balance it out.
No, I'm not. No, I was trying to lead you guys down that garden path and then come through with how I really feel.
Okay, let's
so
shall we do
I want it to be all negative.
Fake positive. Let's be fake positive.
All right, the
first.
fake positive / optimistic
Stranger
side.
things have happened.
Stranger things have happened and glass half full.
Yes.
Okay? Because I have to admit, I haven't been able to do any of this looking at it from a side that maybe a neutral can go, you never know, man, this can happen and it's at home and City can be got at, that side of it. I've just been we're finished, we're a mess, we're going nowhere fast. Oh my God, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
So let's just, for Carrick's sake, because he deserves our support,
for Michael Carrick,
for Michael's sake. Is there a world, Ange, whereby it's his first game, it's against City, we've been absolutely atrocious, 75,000 fans, and you know what? It's not about pretty football. It's not about great tactics. It's about Dallo smashing Semenyo, get that ball out for a throw-in. It's about...
Oh, we've got Semenyo now as
Yes.
well, yeah. I
No,
almost
don't do
forgot about that.
Don't
Sorry.
Be positive here.
Sorry.
Yeah? It's about Ahmad back in the team,
Yeah.
going at O'Reilly, getting past him, getting a corner, first couple of minutes, Stretford ends up, they're up. It's about Ugarte goes smashing into a tackle, Cobby dropping the shoulder, running away from Rodrigo, getting the crowd up.
Yeah.
Rodri, sorry. So could that manifest itself into a positive thing where actually you can get at City? Or do we need to be more realistic, which is that we've seen what these players do. Darren Fletcher's described them as fragile. Ruben Amorim described them as fragile.
Yeah.
And we're all
They look
expecting this. They
fragile.
look fragile. We're looking for this bounce of some sort.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, we see what we always see, and Manchester City have a field day.
Also, just one thing that I was questioning. After the Brighton game, I heard that, the players will have a day off on Monday.
They've been off.
But apparently they've been off. Is this just because they've not got a manager? Just take another day off.
Because there's no point making Fletcher do here's what you're going to do in training.
They should still be there, still doing something. I'm sorry. They don't deserve 2 days off. You barely got any games left. They can't be... No, not having it. So that did annoy me. Yeah. So who will we have back from AFCON?
Ahmad and Mbeumo will be back.
Right.
They'll be back in training tomorrow.
Okay, so they'll be back in training tomorrow. So with those two in the starting lineup, I can buy into this a little bit more.
Where are they going to play? Now we play a 4-3-3.
I don't know. I've not thought that far ahead yet. All I'm thinking is they would actually be back. So, yeah, I mean, it depends if Haaland's on an off day or not. He's at Old Trafford. One thing I will say, crowd will be up for it. Because Manchester United fans, they will get behind... Get behind every manager. The place, I think, will be rocking. Even though I know that it's been a rubbish game against Brighton, I think the fans...
rocking at the start, but the team got to respond. Team got to respond because it'd be rocking as soon as the referee blows his whistle, it'd be rocking.
But you think if he can galvanise these players, it's Manchester City. If this is a game to stand up and be counted, this is it. When you get into it, you look at the quality. Shirky's looking good. Haaland, if he's on form that day,
we're in massive trouble.
Yeah, we are in massive trouble.
Let's not speak about quality.
So yeah, when you look at it, player for player, and confidence levels, etc. As much as it pains me to say it, Pep Guardiola is a great manager. So yeah, it's difficult. I think the opening 10 minutes will be key. I think if Man United can come out. And which I guess the opening few minutes against Brighton, they did come out on the front foot, but I think they can come out, be positive, be powerful. You think about Mbeumo and Ahmad, since they were last there, so much has changed. They're going to want to get in. Not that they need to impress Carrick because they are two of our best players, but they're going to want to get in, get stuck in, help the team out, maybe give them a little bit of a boost. So yeah, this is as far as I can. This is all I can give you. I'm sorry.
Crookie, is this the biggest free hit you've seen, or for Carrick? Is it that?
Well, probably both the
And
first
both
two
games.
games.
Yeah, exactly,
because
actually.
it's
Arsenal as
City
well.
at home and
God,
Arsenal
yeah,
away.
Arsenal,
I
yeah.
didn't even get to that bit yet.
Yeah.
Talk about a baptism of fire.
Yeah.
Do you know what, though? I'm more confident about this one than the Arsenal game,
Yeah,
mainly because
agreed.
United's record at the Emirates is appalling,
Yeah.
apart from that FA Cup win last season. But in the derby, quite often you expect it to be a foregone conclusion in City's favour, and sometimes it is, but more often than not, it isn't. And you look at their recent league form, City, 3 successive draws. I know they scored 10 against
They
Exeter
are scoring a lot of goals
last weekend.
Well, even away
but you
from
have to
Exeter, they
take-
are scoring, but they are drawing games, but they do
but
score.
they give you a chance
Yeah, they do.
defensively, and they've obviously got
Yeah.
issues at the back. I'm looking at the team that played against Brighton when Brighton probably should have won the game. Kusanov was one of the centre halves. Obviously, Elena's come in. You probably expect Nathan Ake maybe to shift across and then O'Reilly to come back into the team, but that isn't by any means City's first choice defence. So I do think there are goals in this, and I think with the atmosphere, I think Carrick will send him out to play on the front foot. I don't think it's beyond the realms of possibility that United get a result.
It's the most
Maguire
back in.
because I
Yeah,
was
you probably
thinking
gotta bring him in.
Lenny
You've gotta bring him
Euro going up against Man City's attack. I really like Lenny Euro, but the guys has been struggling recently,
really
and he's
frightened
got
to
no.
play.
And I think up against someone like Haaland, I think he'd be terrified.
I think you got to go Maguire Martinez
Yeah.
for this one. In terms of him setting up the team, Crookie, in terms of individuals, we managed to, and you managed to predict how Fletcher would go.
Give us another prediction.
What do you think Carrick does here?
Yeah.
Ahmad and Mbeumo are back. If we want to play 4-3-3, it means one of them has to play on the left, which they're both left-footed. They probably don't want to be there, but they're quick, they're direct, and can make it happen. Or do you not try to shoehorn everything in? Mateus Cunha hasn't been great in the last couple of games. Do you put him on the bench and go with Ahmad and Mbeumo, and then Bruno Fernandes in the 10, and then Kobe and Casemiro? Or does Kobe go on the bench because we were very open against Brighton? Like, what do you think the team should be?
He wasn't great, was he, Kobe?
No, he wasn't.
And I'm hoping we can just put that down to
Ring
lack of
rust.
confidence from knowing that he wasn't fancied by Ruben Amorim.
That
But
was
his
his
last
first
two
start
starts,
First start.
Yeah.
well, his last 2 starts have been Grimsby in
Yeah.
the League Cup.
Yeah.
We got knocked out, and now Brighton the FA Cup.
And look at the distance
I'm
between
sure he
them.
will come good, but I'm not sure this is necessarily the game for him to come good in. I take on board what you're saying about Cunha, but I think he's shown he is someone who relishes the big occasion. His performance at Anfield was probably the highlight of his United career so far, so I think he'll play. I'm not sure, even though he scored 3 goals in his last 2 games, that this is a game for Šeško. I think this might be one, maybe, to try and go with a false number 9. So,
Do you think Carrick would do that, though? Would you think Carrick... Does Carrick keep it simple in what he knows, or try that whole, like you say, I don't know, because have someone coming off the front, false and not... I just kind of got a feeling Carrick's going to go, there's my number 9, there's my wingers. They might not exactly want to be there, but there they are. Here's my 2 sitting just in front. We'll keep it like
quote
that.
unquote on
Šeško's
form.
on
in
form.
Yeah.
I think he plays him.
Yeah, I think you're probably right, but I'm not sure I would. But what will he do? I think he'll go for, obviously, Le Mans in goal.
Yeah.
The back 4 basically picks itself.
I think Luke Shaw gets back in,
Yeah, I'm not having
dependable.
Dallo at the moment, but I think he's got to play for balance. So Dallo, Maguire, Martinez and Shaw, there's a lot of experience in there. I think, I would possibly, again, controversial, would you play Bruno a little bit deeper? Would you go Casemiro, Fernandes,
Cunha in the 10.
Cunha in the 10, Ahmad on one wing, and Mbeumo on the other, and then Šeško up front?
Mount on the bench. You might have to. I think we have to find a way to start both. But what will probably happen with us as United fans is the one who's on the left probably struggles because they don't really play there, even though they're left-footed. And we're like, they've just been out the game, Because it's the same with Matheus Cunha. We've been putting him on the left, and he hasn't looked great. He wants to come in all the time and be in central area. So we shall see. Let's get the predictions locked in.
No, I think was I right with? I think I predicted a Brighton 2-1 loss.
Did you?
I
thought you said draw on pens.
No, I didn't say pens.
That was crooked.
You went on pens, and you and Crook
Didn't
went.
believe it, I was
lying. This is hard.
What are you saying, Ange? Man, you're a Manchester lass.
I know.
Born and bred, Salford in your veins.
I know. I think you know what? I'm gonna go with a 2-1 United win. I'm gonna go with that. I don't know how much I believe it, but I just feel that the magic of the Manchester derby. Even last season, we managed to get a win that we didn't expect at the Etihad. So for me, stranger things have happened. So why not?
Crookie, what you got for us?
2-2.
Ooh.
Yeah, draw. Yeah. I'm with Crookie. I just can't see us putting them to the sword. And I'm talking about the players. I don't trust them.
Yeah.
I don't trust them to be like, we've just made it so miserable for these fans. It's Derby Day, 12:30 kickoff. It's packed out Old Trafford. It's Michael Carrick's first game. Let's play for him. This is not even about quality. This is about commitment, desire, willingness to do the right stuff. And I don't trust them to do that. So I'll go draw at best. Best. Yeah, it's how I'm feeling. Actually, while we're here, we'll be back for Arsenal. Actually, we don't need to do that.
Great.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah. We'll deal with that then. We'll deal with that then. Okay, guys, we've predicted that we won't lose at best.
Yeah, we'll take that.
Let us know if you guys are feeling that this has been Inside Devils, and we see you on another episode, hopefully with 3 points in the bag for our new interim head coach until the end of the season, Michael Carrick. See you then, guys.